Hello guys, and welcome back to Strategic Command World War II World at War with our allied playthrough. In the last episode, we hit end turn and took on our turn with the Soviet Union, our offensive, counter-offensive, going pretty well, getting still slowed down around some parts, but having more bodies on our side than the Germans can throw. We are going about neck and neck with them in terms of MPP production on each side, and we are still facing off against superior units, but the fact that we were making any progress at all is a pretty good sign for us. Turning our attention to the United States of America, I'm looking at my Pacific strategy, which I know in a further allied playthrough, I will have loads of room to improve here. I definitely did not think too far ahead or enough here. We got the 3rd Marine Tank Division here, which is nice. Just free tanks. I'm going to reinforce that here on the island, getting rid of some of its morale. But we want to get this back up to strength over here on American Samoa. We probably honestly just want to have it leave and not stay here. But it's not integral in any of our campaigns just yet. And it is spawned on a secondary supply and national morale objective. I was going to take this Marine Division Special Forces and go for Fiji. But thinking about it, I noticed that after the initial scripts, the AI has been very hesitant, fleeing when necessary or lingering in areas. I'm assuming my destruction of so much of the Japanese units, as I discussed, I think in the previous episode, has had an effect on the AI where the AI is afraid to make offensives because it doesn't have enough troops. Because aside from the scripted offensives, I keep seeing units starting to build up in Japan, small amounts of them, mostly sitting on towns, and I haven't seen any further incursions or invasions from the special forces. Knowing that I haven't really killed any of the special forces, that must mean that they are on these islands. Now, I just took Mahuro over here, which was a place where I assume a special force may have spawned. And so that means anything with Axis, maybe they're not there. Anything with allies, but Axis occupied, good chance of them being there, right? I don't think anyone was at Wake. I think I got a good line of sight on that. I can't always tell if I have line of sight. But, for example, Nauru over here, I feel like that special forces might still be there. And if there still is an enemy there, then my current strategy is going to run into two problems. Number one, if I have a normal amphibious transport, then it will not be able to sustain a amphibious assault, as it will lose supply every turn. And number two, I don't know if I can crack a special forces off an island with a single amphibious transport. Therefore, I'm going to call off my attack on the Fiji Islands, because there could be someone there. It's more likely to be there than a lot of other places. We'll take the 2nd Marine Division Special Forces, and we're going to send them back up. First, however, these are two places that belong to the Japanese at the start. I can't see directly on them right now. However, assuming some of their special forces spawned out here, I mean, how else would they have been able to take this and this, right? They must have had spawns out here. We should be able to hopefully take it. If we can't, well, we'll divert somewhere else. But let's check. Okay, I see no one. So the amphibs can see when they get close. Okay, so voila, I've taken Kwajalein. That should hurt their national morale pretty well. And now that we've successfully taken Kwajalein, I'm going to naval cruise this long-range transport up into the port of, I guess, Majuro for the time being, where it can hopefully just be safe. And then hopefully there's no one at Roy Namur. If there is, then we'll attack him amphibiously and by land, and maybe by sea. I'll have that capability here momentarily. And then once this is done, I'm just going to team these guys together. And then if they work together, they should be able to hopefully crack any one single special forces on any of these islands by utilizing the more expensive long-range transports. Maybe also get them some upgrades. I know we have some infantry weapon upgrades for them now. This also means we could take the Aylwin Destroyer and get it headed up north as well. I'm going to just send it directly north for the time being. I want to get it into Pearl, get it repaired, and if it has any upgrades, I don't think there are any upgrades, but if it has any upgrades, the Nautilus sub is good to go wherever the fuck we want it to go. I think I'll go... Well, we want to get towards the locations where we'd have convoys. So we want to move in that general direction. That reminds me, we also have to reinforce the S-42 sub. Gotta make sure I don't forget that exists a little bit better. I don't want to force my way west by cruising, because we might just run into some enemies. I don't know where a lot of the enemy ships are at the moment still, so we're just going to sail southwest with the sub, just to kind of have it in range to assist anything over here if need be. We'll take the Leary destroyer, which is over here kind of guarding the transports, and we'll go park that in the Kwajalein port for the time being. We have a couple more things to do at Pearl, namely we can upgrade the carrier with another level of long-range aircraft, another level of advanced fighters, and another level of naval weaponry, improving its performance just all around the board. The Lexington carrier, the sole survivor of the American air fleet. Sounds so grim. These ships here are actually capable of going. They don't have to take up the port anymore. The Maryland battleship, which we will put behind the other battleships over here. I kind of want to get the fleet moving forward soon, but we should probably wait a little bit. For now, I'll just move these out. We'll send this heavy cruiser up front. We definitely want the destroyer to get repaired first, because it is a good screen. And I don't want anything bad to happen to these battleships, but they don't need to be in port first. So for now, we'll put the New York over here at port, where it should hopefully be safe. We'll put the Texas by it, and we'll send in the 2 heavy cruisers. They'll be cheap, quote-unquote, to repair, cheap to get upgraded with whatever they need, and they can be of better assistance to the 4 battleships that are here already good to go, not to mention the Massachusetts battleship back here, which can pretty much head down and join the fleet as well. Right now, we'll just have it come around the side of Pearl here and chill out. Yeah, because we have so many battleships, we need more screens to be ready before anything. And I'll probably get this fleet moving forward as we do end up taking more islands, kind of moving forward with our own offensive. Trying to keep it as one big fleet, because as of right now, it's not like we have a fuck ton of ships. The Brits still have more in the Atlantic alone, not to mention the stuff they have in the East as well, which we'll take care of that when we get to it. On America's side of things, we did get Mexico to join randomly. There's a lot of these scripted ones that join. I know Mexico joined historically. Historically, I think Venezuela also did. So I'm still looking at like the fact that I put so much money into them and seeing if there's any point actually trying to make them join. Although the thing is, with a lot of the South American countries, Brazil aside, most of them didn't join until right before the end of the war. So we're talking like 2 or 3 years from now. The war with Germany specifically. So yeah, 2 or 3 years from now is when a lot of them joined. I don't remember Argentina joining. They may have, but I don't remember. We shouldn't need to put anything into Brazil to get them, though, if Mexico's joining for free. I don't remember Venezuela. I'm just hoping I didn't waste the 250 MPPs completely, but then again, if they join anyway, I guess it doesn't harm anything, really. Just another lesson learned, right? We have the first corps over here in Mexico. Mexico can get another corps and another garrison, which is not really a lot, but since Mexico is right where it is and it's so safe, we're going to just take this corps and we're going to go send that over to Western Mexico, and we're going to start sending the garrison down to Mexico City, because that corps can just be redeployed and used in the Pacific to help America in taking down Japan, blah, 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 because it's not going to be needed in Europe at any rate. The Mexicans cannot operate on their own since they cannot make any HQs, so they need to work with American forces, or even British, but I'll keep them with the Americans. The Brits can always focus more heavily on Europe if I need them to, and then that would allow them to get more of their own units and Canadians, whatever the hell else they need, into the fray rather easily. It's just that I'm splitting my attention as the UK that they're not, because I'm trying to focus my efforts on everything all at once. The biggest threat, technically speaking, out of every single one of the Axis members is definitely Germany, because Germany is the one that has taken the most. Germany produces more than the other 2 Axis members combined in terms of total MPPs, and so Germany's going to be the hardest to kill. But Germany also has fronts to worry about all over Europe. They have the Soviet Union dedicating themselves to fighting them. Japan just needs a lot of naval attention, which is what I'm trying to focus down doing. One thing I wish I did is when I think we got 2 free corps at least deployed in Australia. I actually kind of wish I put one at Darwin and Perth. I kind of really didn't think about it. I was thinking like, oh, okay, where do I put them to get them deployed? And where do we have good supply? Well, I should have probably sent something up here, because as of right now, this is completely undefended. Yeah, they can land and take it, but guess what? If I had just put a fucking core here, there's a good chance that they never would have been able to take anything. But who knows? We do have MacArthur over here at Port Moresby. I'm going to go ahead and upgrade him very expensively to have anti-air defense and mobility. Could be very handy if he does spend some time out here. While I'm over here, I'll also just make sure to upgrade the Australian 2nd Corps with the Works, which is going to be fairly expensive for the UK, but nothing they can't afford, as we will probably utilize this force to prepare to push and retake Leh, ideally. I will, Well, the supply here is decent enough. We can send the Kanga Special Forces forward. I don't know that they're going to step off of Leh, and assuming they're probably not, we do have all the time in the world to actually progress in that direction. We might as well do some recon with the medium bombers over here, fly out about as far as we can. I'm going to send one recon southwest towards Wake, just to kind of keep an eye on this area. No view of anything, and they cannot do another recon. The fighters can do a recon, for whatever that's worth. Does this hurt them at all to do? 61, 71. Let's look. Okay, you can get a further view down this way. Let's look out this way. 61, 71. Okay, this doesn't hurt your readiness, morale, or anything. It just hurts your ability to actually run any other missions. We know over here towards Wake is probably safe. I don't know if submarines can be detected this way, but there's certainly no surface fleet coming at us from this direction. Submarine has the route towards Truck defended. And that's most of what we're really going to do as America. We can go ahead now and actually... Oh, wait, no, hang on. Hang on, slow your horses. We have some Strat bombers that have arrived, the 8th Strat bombers. There's not a huge reason to move these right now. Getting them to the West Coast would hardly help the defense of the West Coast, as they are Strat bombers. I would need to get them closer to Japan to really make use of them and also give them fighter coverage. So, I don't mind if they stay in Pittsburgh, but the Bradley HQ and the 3rd Army over here, on the other hand, they could definitely do with moving. For right now, we'll get the 3rd Army upgraded, because it can get some upgrades. We'll get the Bradley HQ upgraded with what upgrades it can get. 117 MPPs, very, very expensive, but we only have to pay for these things once. Most of it was mobility. And once you have the mobility, you're good. Mobility is a one-time upgrade, so let's get those upgrades on them. That leaves us with 313 to spend on America. I think for the purposes of the island hopping campaign and the fact that the Japanese Navy has actually been very brutalized as is, and the fact that we're getting another carrier already anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and prioritize getting special forces, because the islands they have are very poorly defended, and now that the Japanese Navy is stretched thin, I also have more plans with the other nations to further stretch thin the remaining Japanese navies. So special forces I'm going to give priority to right now. We're going to get full infantry weapons, anti-air defense, and mobility. That's 240 MPPs for the 4th Marine Division. We're going to go ahead and purchase that. That leaves us with 3 more we can purchase. We'll get one of these in September, one of these in November. The one in September is going to need a little bit of upgrades because it's a little bit outdated. So with 3 more, we'll probably get 2 more Marine Divisions. These names are just for flavor. And then the other one, I'll probably just pick the Ranger names. Set name. I'm still so curious about how the HQs work with the removing generals and such, especially because I accidentally deleted one from the game in China, which I'm still so upset about. However, that should be good. With that, when they're all done, so by the end of the year, we will have a total of 4 special forces, and maybe even a 5th if we purchase more next turn, although we are going to need to put even more emphasis into the naval forces as well. We have the HQs coming about, now that we have right here the Bradley HQ, which is pretty decent, rating 7, better than MacArthur. Not worth putting Patton or Eisenhower into in place of. Not that we'll need these HQs for very much. MacArthur's just going to keep supporting the Pacific. Bradley will be used if we need him. Looking at the Brits over here in the Atlantic, there's not too much to report. We do keep running into a goddamn Spanish motherfucker out here. Let's go see if we can find that light cruiser. Where are you right now, you son of a bitch? Are you out here? If you're not here, there's no way you've gotten very far. This thing always keeps showing up. Did he run into port? No, he's not in port. Meaning he has to be somewhere out here, right? Well, shit, if he is, I don't know where the fuck he is. He went, like, up northwest. He might be in Saint Nazaire. actually. The Spanish can probably park in here. This is a German port. I might have just completely missed him. Well, either way, he's not going to find the subs as easily this time around. Ah, yes, that's right. The Z-13 destroyer did step out and decide it wanted to play for some godforsaken reason. Well, we can make very quick work of him. Our carrier fleet is up and ready again, which means our bombing potential is very high. The TAC bombers are capable of bombing it right now as well. Given the general proximity to everything else over here, I think I'll allow my battleships to get some more practice in. Let's say the King George V battleship will go and meet the enemy cruiser, and yeah, we'll try to do it like this. We've attacked, we dealt 6 damage, we took no damage. Even better, way better than the game promised that we would do, which is always something that you want to hear. We'll go park it over here in Plymouth where it'll be safe. Now, this can probably be dealt with pretty easily. I don't want this carrier running the escorts. I wonder, what if I set this to bombers? Okay, then it'll pick a fighter. Yeah, let's go ahead and try to finish this off now with the TAC bombers. Will probably be pretty smart. I could also try to use like a heavy cruiser or something that's nearby. Let's see what the one in dock can do. Oh, I see. The enemy ran into dock, so we're not going to be able to do anything against it. Okay, then we do just want to TAC bomb it to finish it off. Okay, I think this plan is working out pretty well then. All right, let's go ahead and run TAC bombing interceptors fly, but I knew that. That's why I didn't attack it when it was at a higher strength, and why I wanted to make sure the dedicated land-based fighters were the ones defending it. Ooh. We took a lot of damage on our planes from that, but we did wipe out the enemy destroyer, and destroyers for the Germans aren't exactly the most common things in the world. We're going to go ahead and upgrade the number 11 fighters and the coastal command fighters with long-range aircraft 2. We'll definitely have some recovery to do for these bombers and these fighters. The enemy fighters being just surprisingly good. They don't even look like they're particularly upgraded, but you know, guess you can't judge by looks all the time, huh? Since all the carriers are pretty much good to go, I want to get them all piled up again. So the Ark Royal carrier is going to sail its happy ass over here. I put the Glorious carrier back in fighter cap mode. We're going to sail it over here as well. We might just want to push forward again to make more room. We'll see. I'll take the Courageous carrier, move it down here. Yeah, let's move forward to make a little bit more room. Pull the Illustrious carrier out, pull the Formidable carrier out, and ideally we'd want another screen for them. Oh, which would have to come from down or up. We don't need all the screens we have around Brest right now because there's not a whole lot to protect. So we will take the Triumphant, the French Triumphant, and we will move that up to screen these ships. I will cycle the Suffolk out and actually put the Belfast. Actually, no, the Belfast cannot repair where it is. So the Belfast is going to go to Southampton instead. And then the Suffolk, I guess, can just stay where it is. We'll go ahead and repair the Javelin Destroyer, which is over here in port. We can probably get a lot more upgrades on a lot of these ships. This heavy cruiser can get its ASW upgrades. Okay, sure, yeah, that's pretty important. We'll send the Prince of Wales into Liverpool, the Hood battlecruiser into Glasgow, the Duke of York battleship into Belfast. Let's see what else, and that's all of everything over here. Just to try to get them their upgrades. Actually, if 111's the best we can do, then these ones are already upgraded. Okay. Well, then never mind. We'll move those out, or we'll put the other nearby battleships that are not those ones into port instead, and they can get the upgrades when the opportunity arises. The convoys, in the meantime, otherwise, are doing pretty damn well. We do have this battleship up here to worry about. We will go ahead and upgrade the Icelandic maritime bombers with ASW, naval weaponry, and an additional long range, which will up their strike range from 12 to 14. That'll be nice. We know there was a sub over here, but we don't see it. I don't know if we can even see it by doing recon, but for now, just getting that maritime bomber running is probably the best thing we can do. We are now going to turn our attention over here in Greece, where we are going to reinforce the Desert Air Force fighters, which I still wish I had another HQ that could really help them, but I do not have that. The Athens Corps is getting all kinds of beat up. The enemy panzers have also left the front. They've been cycling in Italians just to try to break away at these defenses here. And I can't say it hasn't been particularly successful because, well, I mean, look how much this Athens Corps got beat up. The front by the Metaxas is doing absolutely amazing. There's nothing going wrong here at all. They're attacking us and they're not really getting any damage at all. They're having problems here. If not for the fact that stepping out of the Metaxas would probably get us slaughtered by these tanks, I would love to go fight these medium bombers if at all possible. However, possibility is not the most likely thing right now. We're going to take the Desert Field Artillery and fire again on the Albanian Corps just to lower its entrenchments down to 0. We'll also fire on the 11th Italian Army to lower its entrenchments as it was swapping with the panzers that were entrenched. We don't want these Athens Corps to stay here, so we're going to swap them. We're going to swap them with the WDF Army. And the WDF Army has much better likelihood of being able to do anything over here. The 2nd Corps is going to go ahead and just reinforce as it holds the front against our opponents. We will attack with the WDF Army against the Albanian Corps, dealing 3 damage, taking none. Okay. Our tanks don't have as good of odds. They're also in worse supply, and they also don't really have as many upgrades, unfortunately. I think because we swapped, yeah, we can go ahead and upgrade the Athens Corps. Well, reinforce them up to 8. That's the best this supply allows. We'll get them moving out further later. I just don't want them getting bombed while they're at 3 and then dying or something. So we'll take the armored corps here, the armored tanks, with their prepared attack and send that against the Italians. Dealing 2 damage and taking none. Alright. Could be better, could be worse. These tanks, again, are not the best thing we have here since they're not as upgraded. We don't even have the armored warfare, otherwise they would be a lot more efficient. Again, dirt, I wish I did that. Not as much for the UK, I wish I mostly did that for the USSR. I will go ahead and actually move. Yeah, well first let's upgrade the Rhodesian Special Forces with better infantry equipment. We're going to move the armored tanks off the front now, and move the 10th Army up to take their place. Use that for a blitz attack against the Albanian Corps, dealing 3 damage and taking no damage. Once again, not going to kill it, but another turn where they're going to have to pour a lot of MPPs. Honestly, this is probably half, at least, or roughly, of Italy's MPPs to just reinforce this one unit. Now, they're not suffering much of any losses anywhere else, so they can certainly afford to do that. However, it's worth noting the situation. So the Macedonian army here has gotten upgrades. It has elite reinforcements. It could be used back on the Metaxas line to minimize casualties. However, I wouldn't want to do any mass swapping right now just because that would destroy the actual entrenchments there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to swap it right now up to the eastern part of the Metaxas line here, reducing entrenchments by 1. This moves the 3rd Corps back. However, they'll probably go for the 1st Corps given the current situation here. Now, what I intend to do is then swap the Macedonians to where the 1st Corps is next turn, so that we have that defensive army front up there again. And these 2 corps can just defend this one spot over here, which is much, much harder for the Axis to attack. And hopefully the army will be able to survive up on the front. Hopefully, I also don't want to move it too much because if you swap, I think that reduces readiness and morale a little bit. So I don't want to overdo that. We do have the Hellenic Greek fighters to deploy, finally. The supply is decent, but of course, it's somehow still not enough. Hopefully this HQ from the Greeks can somehow help in some way. But with another fighter unit here, that adds even more escorts and even more things that we can do. Yeah, supply over here is 5 for these units. 4, 5, 8. Very weird. The supply situation over here is just so weird. I don't really understand it. But with the Hellenic fighters here, we now have additional air coverage, and that should be very, very handy. We don't have the capability to really attack because we're reinforcing the Desert Air Force fighters, and the Greek ones have only just arrived. So if we do go bombing, we're just going to get intercepted by fighters, which we can see fighters. I know there's a lot more, but we can see some fighters and know that that's going to happen. Looks like an Italian army has now moved up. They're strengthening their front over here in Brest even more. It's not a good position to push from without armies and stuff, so that's why I'm not really pushing much here. I'm just trying to keep them distracted as much as is possible, which is also why I'm not sending reinforcements, because we're dug in enough that they haven't chosen to send anything else over here. We could at least look at sending something. First, let's go ahead and upgrade the 1st Canadian tanks with the works, because they would certainly arrive in Brest of all places if they get sent anywhere, and at least I can get them ready with some of my MPPs. We also don't want to let research go unnoticed. We did finish some logistics research by the looks of it, and probably long-range aircraft was a recent accomplishment. We will go ahead and at least spend on researching the next logistics research. Now, we'll look elsewhere before we really commit to doing anything else like that here. So we do have the fleet being sent from Australia and New Zealand that needs to go ahead and reach some of the ports up here to get itself up to strength. We do have some subs. Do we have advanced subs for you guys? No, we don't. Well, if we don't have advanced subs for you guys, then you guys can just get moving and raiding the DEI convoy line. Well, I doubt you can present a threat to the carrier, unfortunately. But we'll send the DEI sub, and we'll send the truant sub forward, where they can hopefully raid some enemy MPPs and knock them down a peg. The Australia heavy cruiser we'll send over to like the safer side on the west, where it can get some repairs in. We'll do the same with the Leander light cruiser over here at Calicut. We are going to reinforce the aircraft on the Indomitable carrier. We cannot upgrade this battleship any further, so we'll take it out of the port, and we're going to send it just to right next to the carrier to just kind of keep an eye on it. We have upgrades we can do on everything, if not repairs. The Canberra heavy cruiser will go over to Madras, and the Perth light cruiser will go over to... I can't say that name, holy shit. But we're going to get everything upgraded up to snuff here so that the British Army Navy will be able to function out here fairly well. I'll go ahead and finally reinforce the Sudan Defense Force Corps and get that back up to 10 strength. We have some infantry weapons upgrades we can do for the South Africans here to make sure they're caught up, so when I do send them out that they will be up to strength. That leaves us with 188 MPPs. We still have the Desert Reconnaissance that we could send forward, but again, the front here is pretty much clogged as it is. We are still kind of stretching ourselves thin in terms of overall resources, so getting more units up to Greek is not really my main priority. Wow, an HQ would sure be handy there. I think it has to be a British one. I don't know that these ones would really help. They would help in that if I put them near the front, like one of them, the South African one, could maintain the front on Albania. However, they are relying on mostly cores, so it's a little less impressive. Rather, keeping them somewhere they can respond to threats for right now is good enough. 188 MPPs remaining as the UK. Where do we want to put this? Well, I think I'll put into more research, because we do still have more room for research, and we are researching things fairly quickly. Now, what would help us the most? Well, for the Brits, naval weaponry is very important, and it's only a 2 upgrade thing. I think a lot of the enemies already have naval weaponry too, so we might as well go ahead and start researching that, since that is very, very important for the Brits. I'd love to get some advanced subs, but it's just very much not the focus of what the Brits do. We don't need to improve the subs very much as the Brits, not nearly as much as we need to improve naval weaponry. That leaves us with 13 MPPs, which is not a whole lot, but it's enough to say look at Hong Kong and give them at least 1 infantry weapon upgrade or anti-air defense. Let's give them anti-air defense, because that's probably what they would deal with before anything else. That leaves us with 0 MPPs remaining as the UK. What remains then is China and India. I don't believe I'm missing anything. I'm not seeing any enemy ratings happening, not even down south. Actually, I am missing something. The Vendetta destroyer from Australia needs to keep moving northwest. I'm just going to have it keep moving normally, because I don't know where these Jap subs went. And that looks like that'll be it for today. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.